I was born in Ethiopia. My father was a colonel at the previous regime. Um, my mother was a teacher, and when the previous government kind of toppled, my mom sent myself and my younger brother here, and we came here as an accompanied um, asylum seekers. We were placed in foster home. I was 15 when I first arrived. My brother was 14. It was my younger brother that first converted in 98, and I took my Shahada in April 2006. Well, I got married in September 2006. My brother had moved to Somalia. The country was stabilizing after 16 years of civil war. I was a new Muslim at the time, and it was just a promise of, you know, helping out, starting, rebuilding the country. I got married in September that year, and my husband and I decided to go and visit my brother. And I got pregnant right away. So we traveled to Somalia in November. There was some problems, conflict starting with Ethiopia. When the airport was bombed, we obviously had to get out. There was quite a few foreign nationals, British, American. They got convoy and got the women and the children try and get out the country, because obviously we couldn't fly out. All the flights were suspended, so we had to drive towards Kenya. A friend of my husband that came very early in the morning around Fajr time. My sister-in-law and her son were put in a car, and we thought it was just going to be us three, but then they picked up along the way many other families. It was a minibus. It was just full of women and children. It was just a horrendous journey. Helicopters would hover around, so they would stop the car, we would hide in the bushes, go back in, children would get sick. A straight 12-hour journey, no food, no drink, nothing. That turned out to be a 3-week journey from a day, because we had to abandon the car along the way, and we were told we had to walk at night so that we're not seen, and then, you know, hide during the day in the bush. We would drink flood water and things like that to survive for the 3 weeks. And there was an American sister that was with me who had 3 children with her, a 7-month-old, 5 years old, and a 9-year-old. And she contracted malaria. I remember she was taking some medication. Her temperature was extremely high, and she had her baby with her. She started to hallucinate, and she was saying to the driver, you know, stop the car, I can see my husband, stop the car. And she tried to jump out the car with the baby, and she passed away, obviously leaving the babies, the 3 kids. The guy that was supposed to get us to safety said, we can't be taking children without a parent, so I had to assume to be a parent. SubhanAllah, looking back on it now, it doesn't seem real, to be honest, but it was the most horrible, hard experience. To see my nephew, he was barely a year at that time. No clothing. I was pregnant. The majority of those sisters in that car were pregnant. One of them miscarried because of the journey. Another sister, Australian sister, gave birth. I think I got worm because of the flood water that we're drinking. We had to abandon our belongings along the way because we couldn't carry anything because of the walking. And hyenas we would hear at night. I really didn't think we'd come out alive. We were told it was the Kenyan border. It was again at Fajr. We prayed that night. The second I laid down was the gunfire. It was just everywhere, the sound, the smell, and we just ducked under the tree. And then I look, and then I see the African troops. We were completely surrounded by them. And I see the sister that just handed me the baby laying there. She wasn't with us, and she was laying there. And I kept telling her, just come. And she was 5 months pregnant, and she showed me her hand. It was blood on her hand. So that's when actually, literally, that we thought, okay, this is the one. This is where we're going to go. Especially this young soldier would just walk around and try, with aiming the gun at us as if to kind of find the best position to start shooting. They ripped our hijabs, everything off, and they were filming, they were taunting us. They strip searched all of us, took us in a helicopter to the police station. We felt humiliated. The way they would search us. They stole money, jewelry we had. We were placed in the cement, really freezing cold room. We didn't have a nappy for the baby. She had like a terrible rush. They didn't really care. We kept asking, can you get us a solicitor? Can we speak to our families? We weren't allowed. The threats, subhanAllah, they had no rahmah. We were blindfolded and handcuffed, and they said, oh no, you're going to be fine. And we went to this airport army base, I believe. We went there, and that's when we realized actually this is serious. I saw that sister that was shot on a stretcher, still handcuffed. Another incident was I was pregnant, and my trousers were and I said, I need to go to the toilet. And they said, you can't unless somebody comes with you. And literally handcuffed. They wouldn't even take the handcuffs away from me. So the lady had to literally pull my trousers down, sit there. Really, really horrible. And they kept us in Kenya for 5 days in that cell. Interrogation after interrogation, saying, who do you know? On the 5th day, again, really was at night. They came randomly, snatched the kids away, and they were screaming after me. They took us to the airport, and we were flown back to Mogadishu and kept there for another 10 days. The military base in Mogadishu was just horrendous. Not only the treatment and the threat coming from the officials, but also literally they didn't care whether we ate or had anything to drink. There was children being sick. The women were sick. We were crammed into a tiny room, and they brought more women in. I think there was about 28 or more women, and subhanallah, a lot of children. The Ethiopian and the Somali officials would come and take turns in interrogating us. Why did you convert? What God? How can you have been, how can you grow up in Europe, be educated in Europe, and still think there's a God? So that was horrible. That was horrible. I kind of was jealous of the sister that passed away because of what was happening around us and what we were hearing. The Ethiopian government was, when we later found out, when they were taking us to courts and things like that, we happened to be in that place, and the war broke out. When I was released from detention in Ethiopia, I was around nearly 8 months pregnant. You're free to go. We know you haven't done anything. I was never charged or tried. We weren't involved in any groups. I think nearly 2 months later I gave birth. My brother, I was told he died at the border. My husband, I didn't know until after I was released that the British police went to his brother and they told him that he passed away. So I found out 12 days after I gave birth to my daughter. In a way, when I heard that he passed away, it's really weird to say, but for me, it was kind of a relief because of how traumatizing it is, the stories you hear, what's happening to them. He's never met, he will never meet his daughter. We were newlyweds, basically. We were was just the bride, 4 months, and that's it. So it was hard, and especially to see his parents. They were in Ethiopia as well. When I first came back, I remember I was really paranoid, really paranoid. I still don't like going out after a certain hour. I just don't feel safe. It was depressing. My husband not being alive, to be a single mom. I can never feel that whole. Allah puts so much emphasis on the yatim because of it doesn't matter what you do, that effect is really huge. And she's my little weakness. She would look at other kids, their dads carrying them, me, I wish that would be me. A friend actually suggested that I contact Hugs. It didn't feel, that professional relationship. It wasn't like that. Literally, it was like a family. Couldn't repay what Hugs have done for the past few years for myself and my daughter. There was times when I was struggling to pay basic things, the bills and things like that. So they were providing vouchers for food. We would get meat delivered to us. Well, meat is expensive, and it's only me and her, so that meat will go a long way. Freeze it, and so it's a huge financial burden lifted. They've lifted some huge amount of burdens that subhanAllah, like I said, I can only ask Allah to repay that. The landlord gave me an eviction notice, and I'm here now. It's a temporary accommodation. SubhanAllah, we didn't even have a bed. I didn't have anything in myself. So when we moved in, it was an empty house. So Hugs, the bed, the cooker, the washing machine, the fridge. SubhanAllah, they provided everything. The emotional support is one thing. The financial support is, I think, the biggest help. Especially a debt that I had that was just hanging over me. Made life so much easier, so I can focus on other things when it comes to finances, instead of being really paralyzed with the thought of, I have to pay this, I have to pay this. And they've done that. They also helped get her naturalization. I couldn't have done that for about 6 years. We had to fight 6 years for her to get that, and she knows that. It's Hugs support that did that. So the day she found out, and we both made sujood, the way her face lit up, subhanAllah. But like I said, for both of us, it's been an incredible gift. My key worker at the time was amazing. It was like a family. It's like a friend that you can just offload to and will not be judged. They just make you feel at ease. It's a really difficult thing to tell someone, I'm struggling. But they've made it so easy, subhanAllah, and they let you know that you're not the only one. There's many others in your place, so it's okay to say, I need help. So it's been really valuable. The Eid gifts and the trips, fun trips and things like that. Any gift, she gets so excited, mashallah. Alhamdulillah, she anything, funny enough, if something good has happened and she doesn't know the source, where did it come from, automatically it's Hugs. Is it Hugs? It's like, we're gonna do this, and is it Hugs? So mashallah, she's very appreciative. Yeah. Coffee mornings, those were, mashallah, really lovely opportunity to kind of be with sisters with similar stories and spend time together, feeling in a way a little better to know that there are other families, some worse situations, and you get to appreciate what you have, what your differences, things like that. Hugs in 3 words. Knight in shining armor. I would just say, because it's in the darkest moments that they've always been that light, that support. I personally haven't seen a charity as unique as Hugs. The community or others would rather kind of shy away. A lot of people are either scared, who are we scared of really? Allah or who? I'm going to be the number one support. Volunteering, doing what I can, inshallah. Not only me, and my daughter as well. Like, this is the charity, subhanAllah. Wallahi, support Hugs. Support Hugs.